Hola, mi gente. Here we are at episode 1 of the new season and concept to Embracing My Markings podcast. To start off, I just want to say I really miss you guys. I've missed recording. I've missed it all. So I'm so glad to be back. And I just want to say today's episode is part of the new concept I am bringing to Embracing My Markings and highlighting today a Latina-owned brand that is making big waves in the big leagues. Today we are talking to Sandra Velasquez, owner and founder of Nopalera.co. If you haven't heard of Nopalera, girl, let me fill you in. Nopalera products are inspired by the beauty and richness of Mexico. I love that. She takes inspiration from the nopal cactus, an ancient symbol of Mexican culture and one of the most sustainable, nourishing, and versatile plants in the world because we eat it, we use it on our skin, and we use it everywhere. I love this. I actually got this off of her website where it says, this plant is strong, resilient, beautiful, and has always been here, just like us. Isn't that so nice? I love that. So with her products, she's elevating and celebrating the Latino culture. And at the moment, you can find cactus body soaps, which I love. If you guys follow me personally on Instagram or TikTok at maribel.kings, you guys can find that I've made videos of it. Exfoliants, moisturizing botanical bars, and merch. I just got the tote bag. So cute. And she said that it was limited edition. So don't even think twice. It's $30. Super worth it because it's just so sturdy. I love the simplicity of it, but the details are just amazing. So go get yourself one. And a little bit about Sandra. Sandra was raised by Mexican immigrant parents here in San Diego, California, and to be exact, in North Park near the U.S. and Mexican border. She created Nopalera to celebrate the culture, loud and proud, no apologies. Growing up, nopales were everywhere for her. She goes into detail at the beginning of our interview where, she's telling me that at her mom's house, at the front of the house, there's always been this nopal plant, and it's huge, and you can see it. It's like a staple. And one day she just was like, let me try this, because she was singing, for most of her life, and then COVID hit, and so she started Nopalera in 2020. And just to show you guys how committed she is to making high-end products with clean ingredients and celebrating natural beauty, she started creating the brand in 2020 in her kitchen, and now you can find her in Nordstrom. Isn't that amazing? And she has so much more coming in the next few years. And instead of me telling you, let's hear it from her. But before I let you guys hear the whole interview, I do want to apologize. My audio file was actually corrupted in the first 10 minutes of our conversation. So it's very hard to hear her. So I decided to actually remove that audio. However, I do promise the best and the good part is what you are about to hear. If you want to start your own brand, if you want to create something, if you just need that motivation to get started, you do not want to miss this episode.
Map it out, like actually make a deck, like you're going to present it to someone, because you're going to be sharing that deck every time you bring someone onto the bus. Because you have to train people like, welcome to the team. Here's what we're about, Yes.
And I think that's so important as well, getting some type of vision board, as maybe when you're first having an idea of how to get your business. God, that's such good advice, Sandra. And I also found on your website that you have entrepreneur workshops.
Yes.
Wow. And that's what I mean. Like, Sandra, what do you not do?
There's a lot I don't do, honestly. But I really want to share my journey in real time and be transparent, because I think that that's the most useful. And I think that, I wish that I could have had I still have to go ask other founders, like, okay, how much do you pay for this person? What do you use for this? Right. Because the information is not just like on the internet, it's all conversation. So I really want to be transparent, especially around the money, because I think that we need to just have more transparent conversations about money. I think that that's one of the big things that holds people back.
Yes.
And people don't, financial literacy is not taught to us in schools. And a lot of us inherited our money traumas from our families. And so we need guidance, on the money. And there's just so much about building a business that is about the mindset. It's actually the biggest piece. And it sounds, a little cliche to say that, but it's true, because I have never been able to afford anything that I have done. And if I had waited till I had money to start Nopalera, I would have never started. So,
Wow.
So much about, building is working on your mindset, right? And normalizing, I still do this exercise to this day, normalizing numbers and not being scared of money, not being scared of big numbers, because if we've always lived in small numbers, then that's normal to us. And it feels scary to go outside of that. Like, oh my God, how can I ever afford that? Like, we're scared of debt. We're scared of credit cards. We're scared of loans, and whereas people that have wealth, they look at loans like leverage.
Yeah.
Scared because they're like, it's a loan, you'll pay it off, And I think that once you also do that and you prove it to yourself that you can, then it just helps you to keep going. Right.
Yes. And I think that's very important, especially in our culture. That's something that I've come to realize, Sandra, that, my parents came to this country with nothing. They didn't even speak the language, like just recently. And I wasn't an adult. My parents never really spoke about it. Like I was kind of like in a glass bubble growing up. I thought we were rich, Sandra. I didn't know my parents were on Section 8 and what Medi-Cal was. You know what I mean? Because food was always on the table. Yeah. I always had clothes. Like I never... I don't know what's the word. Nunca fui privada de nada, And so it was like growing up, I knew, like you just said, debt was horrible. Like my parents were like, you have to get a credit card because, you have to create your credit score, but you pay that puppy off. Like you cannot like overspend. No gastes dinero que no tienes. And if you want to build a business, you need so much money. And the other day, I was telling my dad right now, everything that I'm creating and everything, I have a vision of what I want for them. I want to be able to give back to my parents. And I told my dad, I'm going to buy you a house in this region of San Diego. And he said, oye, tienes un problema. Tú piensas que eres millonaria. And I sat with that. And, maybe even a couple months ago, I would have been like, oh, yeah, that's too much for me to dream of or whatever, Thankfully, I'm in therapy. I always encourage everybody to go to therapy. Yes. But now I'm like, no, it's not millionaires that live there. I'm not telling you I'm going to put you in La Jolla or Del Mar. Like, I'm telling you, I'm going to give you a nice house. Like, there's no reason for you to be looking at mobile homes. Like, you can afford more than that. It's just how you're going to get there. And now I'm trying to like, like you said, you kind of work backwards and you're like, okay, what's going to get me there? What's the steps that I need to take to get me there? And I've been trying to learn about money and have like a healthy relationship and not be so scared of it, because I feel like, I was raised very ignorant with that, but I don't think my parents could have taught me any different because of their circumstances. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's not a fault or anything, right? It's just that we also just unknowingly inherit our parents' money wounds and traumas. And because it's not discussed, we just take it as fact. Yes. Right. And so that's the thing, is that the step one is to understand that you have a relationship with money. So, and if, that's step one. So it's not just like things are not just facts, right? We feel things, we're emotional creatures. And so, even for me, I'm in the middle of this fundraise
And I have had to really push myself because initially I was like, okay, I need to raise $100,000. Like, that's all I need to raise. I just want to raise just as much as I need for like this round of inventory. And then a friend of mine was like, you should really be looking for 250. I was like, okay, you're right. And so then it was like the hurdle was just emotional. Like, oh God, 250, 250,000, a lot of money. And then I realized as I started to really look at my financial model, like 250 is nothing. And so I was like, okay, now it's 500. Yeah. And then when I started this raise, I was like, okay, I'm going to go, I need to raise $1 million.
Yeah.
And then, and that felt like a huge amount of money. Like, oh my God, I'm going to raise $1 million. What?
Yeah.
And now I'm raising 2 million.
Wow.
But the point of my story is that the difference, me thinking that I needed 100,000 or 2 million, the hurdle was actually just in my mind, of like me jumping over these big numbers because they felt like big numbers to me.
Yes.
And because I have never seen $250,000 at once. I have never seen $500,000 in my bank account, or in anyone's bank account. So it was purely emotional. And, I think when you start to really, when you're building a business and you're really looking at like a spreadsheet of your financial model, which everyone should have, even a basic one, and you really see how much things cost, how much do salaries cost? How much does overhead cost? And in my case, I'm a product-based business, so I have inventory, which is one of my biggest costs. I have to make product in advance before we sell it. So really looking at how much things cost. And if you want to sell this much, that means you have to make this much inventory and whatever, right? So, you have to stop being scared of money,
Yes.
And it's not easy. It's not overnight.
Yes.
It's a process.
Yes, it definitely is. And what's very interesting, I think that's not really focused, like you said, when we're talking about entrepreneurship and because I remember taking a course on eCornell. So online for Cornell University. And they have this free course for women that want to be entrepreneurs. It's 100% free. I think it's Union Bank funds it or something like that. And so I took it. I don't have no product. I don't have nothing. But I was like, I just want to learn. Like, what are they teaching, And the very first lesson was mentality. Having that imposter syndrome. Have you dealt with imposter syndrome? Just not with not only with numbers, but just you saying like, this is too much. Like, I can't. Like, who am I to be giving high-end, products to the world?
Yeah, I actually don't think that I suffer from imposter syndrome. Thankfully, I think that I was born and blessed with natural confidence and like ganas. And so I actually feel a responsibility to put it to use because I was very fortunate to have, my mother's also from Mexico. She came here also as an adult, did not speak English. But she is when you look up Chingona, there's a picture of her, right? And so she came here as an adult, spoke no English, learned English, put herself through like community college, then went San Diego State, I think, and then went to law school and in downtown San Diego. And now she is known as La Flama de la Justicia. She's a very like revered and critically acclaimed immigration attorney in San Diego. She's always on Univision whenever there's like changes in the law and they need like an expert on immigration.
I knew her.
Yeah.
When I saw her that night at Casa Cocina, I was like, she looks so familiar. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. Okay.
So I was very, fortunate to be raised by someone who was extremely fierce and just went after things, like, when she moved here, her goal was to like become a secretary because at that time it was like, wow, become a secretary. Like that's such an esteemed job, and that could be an aspirational career goal. And then people kept telling her, like when she would have questions, they would say, oh, well, you need to ask a lawyer for that. And then finally she just got fed up. She was like, I'm just going to become a lawyer because I keep having to go talk to them. And so I think that I had that modeled for me. And so that very much shaped who I am. So I have always been, for better, for worse, like super like cabezona, just like very much like, I'm going to do this
in a good way.
Yeah. But for better, for worse, right? Because obviously like that's also worked against me sometimes where we're like, I'm going to do this. And then it was a mistake. Right. So
but like, we learn from those mistakes though.
Of course.
That's how I feel.
Oh yeah, totally. No regrets.
I love your line. What did you say? The only failure is when you decide to quit or something like that you mentioned. I love that.
Yeah. And honestly, people think failure is like the end, right? It's like you survive failure, like you either keep going or you stop, it doesn't kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a failed business, you're not going to die, So I think that we need to also change our perspective on what failure is, Yes. And I think it also just comes back to, honestly, like ego, because we're scared to fail in front of people and we're scared what people are going to think about us. And that's truly what people, I think, are scared of, is what other people think.
Yes. That's what has kept me personally.
Yeah.
That has kept me in a box. Apart from everything else. And so in that course, talking about mentality, they not only addressed imposter syndrome, but they addressed, being confident and believing in yourself, because they said, if you don't believe in yourself, then no one will.
100%.
And I was like, no. So that's when, thankfully I already had a really good therapist and I was already working on myself, because we all carry baggage and things. And, I have a lot of trauma and all that. So I had to work those things out. And Sandra, like, honestly, I don't even think I would have met you if it wasn't for therapy, because that night that I went out, I was so nervous because it was like the first time that I went out by myself, without my husband. I always have to be with my husband and my son. And I'm always counting on other people. And I was like, well, even if I go alone, I'll go alone. Like, I just want to go and I want to meet this woman. I want to see who's behind the products. And it was just so amazing to meet you and to be there. And I felt so motivated and inspired. So thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh, you might. Yes. I mean, I'm also very cognizant of the fact that as I'm building this, it is impacting the community and inspiring other people to pursue their dreams and live boldly. And I just think, again, it's so important to surround yourself with people who want to see you win. Yes. And, because if you surround yourself with other people who are also building, you will never be judged because they're in the same boat. It's only people, and just remember, the people that are going to judge you are the people that are not pursuing their dreams.
That's true. That is so true. And sometimes you can't tell your dreams to people that don't dream, because they'll never understand.
Nope, exactly. So that's why you want to surround yourself with people who do have a growth mindset and are building, because you're going to go through the ups and downs together and they are going to understand your situation. So, yeah.
Wow. Now, I wanted to go a little bit further into the entrepreneur workshops. What do those look like? And, what do you offer for the community?
Yeah, so I was teaching them live for a bit, but then I just got too busy, so I made them on demand. So I pre-recorded them and I put them on my website, like not the Nopalera website, but my personal website. And I just have two, because I think the two main things that I was getting questions about, or that people have kind of like a knowledge gap around, are margins, like really understanding margins and the math, like how you should be pricing your products. Yeah. And then number two, branding. So I have a margins class on there on my website, and I have a branding workshop. So they're both just on demand at the moment. And they both come with assets, so for example, the margins class comes with like a custom built calculator that I made that I use for myself. It comes with, sales tracker. It comes with a cash flow worksheet. And then the branding workshop really just walks you through what you need to be thinking about when you're branding your product and how to present, and how to find people, etc. So those are the two things that are on my site now. So they're not live anymore, but I'd love to teach them live again at some point when I have more time.
Yes. So yeah, definitely. If you guys are interested, if you guys need some helpful tools, go and check out nopalera.co. And that's the brand building workshop and the margin magic masterclass for product makers. I love that you're giving back. And then, like I said, the podcast, you guys cannot miss the podcast, Nopalera podcast. You can find it anywhere where you listen to podcast, available in all platforms. And there's very interesting conversations. I even like the little short ones that you make, you know, because sometimes she has guests and sometimes she's solo. But, you know, she discusses, like I mentioned earlier, she discusses, you know, strategies, systems, ups and downs of building a brand from the ground up. And if you guys haven't checked out the products, please check out nopalera.co.
Thank you.
Do we have something to look forward to in the future? Like where do you see Nopalera maybe like in a year? Something short term?
Yeah. This next year, we're really preparing to partner with a national retailer. So hopefully either Ulta or Sephora, it'll be one or the other.
Wow.
Currently, I'm meeting with both of them right now. So we will see. But they plan very far in advance. So if it, you know, when it happens, it's not going to be till, you know, like later in 2023. So currently just working on formulating new products, you know, preparing for that. And just, you know, in this middle of this fundraise. So that's a really big thing because it's a full-time job.
Yes, definitely. The fundraiser, how does that work, Sandra?
Okay, so that's a whole other podcast episode, but like the Cliff's Notes version is
the very short version.
The Cliff's Notes version is, you know, for anyone that's never fundraised, is there's different ways to raise money. So number one, you know, crowd equity funding has become very popular in the last couple of years, which is great. This is, you know, what Little Libros did, you know, Patty Rodriguez, right? So they turned it to the community and they had, you know, they raised, I don't know, $2 million or $3 million. It was either $2 or $3 million from, you know, thousands of people in the community, right? So people gave $100, $1,000, or maybe more. And so now they all own a piece of Little Libros, you know, so that's one way to do it, is to do crowd equity funding.
Okay.
The other way to do it is to raise institutional capital. So this is like venture capital firms, you know, what we call VCs.
Yes.
So that is what I'm doing. So VCs are essentially, venture capitalists are essentially, you know, think of them like, there'll be like a lead, you know, or like partners, like general partners, who are, they have money, and then they know other people that have money. And so they raise money from their friends and put it into a pool that then they are in charge of managing the fund, like the lead partners. So what it is, you know, they commit dollars to brands. They invest, and then they want to see a return on their investment, you know. So once you engage with venture capital firms, you have to have an exit strategy because they need to get their money back times 10. Oh, yeah. Right. So
it's not for free.
No, it's not for free, and it's also not. They're not trying to help you build a lifestyle brand, which, you know, just to define that, some people want to build companies that they want to have forever. You know, they want to pass it on to their kids. They want to do it. They want to do it for the rest of their lives. And that's one way to have a company. Another way is to build a company and then to sell it. So when you're engaging with venture capital firms, you have to have an exit strategy, right? And then there's also angel investors. So a lot of, you know, early stage brands, like at my stage, will raise what they call a family and friends round. And this is where it's the same thing. You're getting investment, but they're not venture capitalists. They could just be high net worth individuals, or they could be literally your family and friends, your uncle. For me, that was obviously not an option because I don't have any rich family and friends. So really my options were like do the crowd equity funding route, you know, like Kickstarter, or go, you know, those kinds of things, right? Or, you know, do raise venture capital. And I also have, you know, met some angel investors as well, who are obviously not related to me, but that is, it's a full-time job. When you're in the middle of a fundraise, it's a full-time job. There's a lot of information. They obviously need to see everything about your entire company. So, you know, you create what's called a data room, which is like a series of folders with all the different, you know, there's like financials, marketing, sales, roadmap, you know, D2C, wholesale, traction, you know, it's your whole company. And then, you know, they invest money and they will partner, you know, when you're bringing on venture capital firms, you're also looking for thought partners. So it's not just about the money, because here's the, you know, back to our earlier point about money mindset. Yes. The reality is that there is so much money in the world. And just I want everyone to be aware of that, because don't be desperate for don't just take it from anyone, because when you, especially if you're raising from venture capital firms, you're getting married. Like, they are with you till the end, till you sell the company. So you want to make sure that these are people that you like, that you trust, that are going to not just bring you money, because again, there's plenty of money in the world. You want people that are going to help you grow. Like, what resources do they have? What connections do they have that can help you scale and grow? So that's part of the process of, choosing, venture capital firms. So I actually, just this week, I can't release names yet, but I did get a commitment from a VC firm. So I'm excited because I'm raising $2 million, and I'm still talking. I still have meetings next week with some other angel investors. But at least I have a strong commitment from a VC firm. So that's really exciting.
That's huge.
And yeah, so that's huge. But all of this that I'm doing, I've had to learn for the first time as I'm doing it. And that's why I'm so busy and so exhausted, because it's not like I'm doing something that I know how to do. I'm literally learning as I go. And, I have to show up to these meetings like I know what I'm talking about. So I also have to understand my business in and out,
Yes.
And all of the metrics and everything. So, fundraising. And then, what you're doing, just to be clear, when you're fundraising, you're selling equity in your company, right? So you are giving away stock and shares of your company. So these people also own part of your company. That's how they make their money when you sell it.
Yes.
So, right, this is not a loan, right? This is an investment that they expect a return on. So that's kind of the short version, I guess, of fundraising.
And, thank you so much for sharing that, because I had no idea. I've seen shows like Shark Tank, and you kind of just get like a little preview or whatever, but it doesn't really go into details. But how you just explained it was really good, because it's like, oh, okay, that's what happens. And I'm sure, sometimes once they see, numbers and the actual facts, they might not want to invest, or if they don't see it there. But I kind of wanted to then praise you again, Sandra, because you're doing all of this. Plus, you have that podcast. You're giving really good information, inside information. Plus, you're doing the entrepreneur workshops. Plus, you're giving us great, products. And now it bothers me even more, the comments that I've seen where they're like, it's too expensive. Oh my God. I forgot the one that you received that you posted on Instagram. You put the no in Nopalera.
Yeah, exactly. You put the no in nopales. $14 a bar? Yeah.
It's like
hilarious.
Oh my God. Like, are you serious? She's not. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I've always had a negative perspective when it comes to people que regatea, especially to our people, because I'm like, you have not even a second thought when you walk into Target, when you walk into a guest shop, our people love guests. And, or a coach or whatever, you don't even think twice. Y das tu dinero like nothing. But to know that this is going back into your community, and they're giving you resources, and they're giving you a good product. You had to figure out formula. You had to figure out, like, what works, what doesn't, packaging, like, todo eso no se ponen a pensar. Es gente ignorante. So, I don't know. I tengo hasta la piel chinita, because I get so like passionate about it. We should never ever. And right now, that's one of my missions of going to small businesses, like Arte Alexia and Casa Cocina. I just visited a florist shop, beautiful florist shop in Chula Vista, también latina-owned. And I'm like, I want to go and buy from Latinos. I don't want to buy from Etsy. I don't want to buy from Amazon. I want to go and support. And that was my next question, Sandra. Because I don't use big retail stores, like I have a Nordstrom near me, but I don't go in there and buy product. But how much does that mean for your company, or for anybody's company that's inside of a big retailer. Does it benefit you guys when we walk in there and support you?
Yes, 100%. Because, and people have asked me this question before, like, what's better for you if we buy from your website or if we buy from Nordstrom? Honestly, the answer is both. But the thing with retail partners is that here's what I guess, like non-entrepreneurs don't understand, is that once you get into a store, like let's say Target, but any store, Target, Nordstrom, Walmart, Sephora, once you get into the store, that's actually when your job as a brand begins, because here's the reality. The only reason that there is room for a new brand at a store is because someone else failed and got taken off the shelves. Oh. So, right? Because think about it, right? When you buy a new couch, what do you do with the old couch? You throw it away, right? You can't just keep bringing in new couches into your house, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same. The store size does not change. The size of the shelves do not change, right? The footprint of the store does not change. What changes are the things on the shelf. And so when we hit the shelves, that's why you see people like, okay, we're available at Target. Everybody go there and buy it, right? Because that we need to prove ourselves to the retailer. And we prove ourselves through our sales. So yes, it does support brands when you're buying them at stores. This is not like it's not like the music industry where like if you go to Spotify and you download my album, like that doesn't really help me. Right. Okay. Because Spotify, the way that the money works for music streaming platforms is really bad. Right. So yes. It does not help artists. But when we're talking about product-based businesses, like, yes, it does help us when you support us at brick and mortar stores, because then, those retailers, it helps our sales at those retailers. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. And see, I never knew that. I never knew that. So I would always just go directly to, like I was last night at your website and I made an order. But now I know, then I'm going to walk into Nordstrom and buy your stuff there.
Yeah. It's only in San Diego. We're only at the one in Fashion Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm near there. Yeah. Okay. Now in the future, do you see yourself doing anything, longer than a year, like 5 years down the road? Where would you love to see your company?
I think in 5 years, we could potentially already be a global brand, depending on how fast we grow.
I hope
so. So, retail partners like Sephora are global brands, right? They're in 33 countries, and that takes a lot of capital, a bigger team, a lot more resources. So, whether it'll be me that is leading the company at that point, or whether, we will have been acquired at that point, I just think that the future of Nopalera is global.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Sandra. Can I just be best friends with you? Because honestly, you're such an inspiration, Sandra. I really appreciate your time to come and sit down with me for a little bit and discuss. Me siento bien motivada. I don't know how else to tell you. Like, I want to create a product. I just don't know what it is.
No worries.
Pero thank you so much for keeping it real. Thank you for giving back to, the community and resources, and giving us the inside looks through your podcast, through your workshops, and giving us such great products. I really wish you the best in the future. And
thank you.
We will be going to Nordstrom, because that's the only store, because the other two stores, I don't think we have them here. Do we? The FP movement and Credo?
Actually, there is an FP movement also in Fashion Valley.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Okay. Yep. So you can buy an FP movement, Free People in Fashion Valley, and Nordstrom Fashion Valley. Yeah. So same mall.
Oh man, I can't wait. I'm actually gonna go out there then today, and I'll stock up on some soaps. I'm doing like these little gift bags.
Oh, cool.
I love giving my girlfriends like little gifts now and then, like self-care gifts. So I'm going to put some soaps in there for them.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's a great gift.
Hi, Sandra. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure, and I will continue to support you till the wheels fall off.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Maribel.
All right, Sandra. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye. Bye.
I want to hear your story, or I want to support your small business. To do so, please go ahead and visit embracingmymarkings.com. Thank you for tuning in.